So you clicked on the video about overthinking, but did you overthink watching this video? You were probably thinking, do I want to watch this video now? Do I want to watch this video later? Do I even want to watch this video at all? Should I watch a different video? And yet here you are watching the video on overthinking. Here's the thing. The thing about overthinking that most people realize, or don't realize rather, is that overthinking has nothing to do with how many thoughts you think or how much you think. It's even in the name, right? Overthinking, too much thinking. You got to think less. But we can't actually control how much we think. We can't. And we can't stop thinking. If you think you can stop thinking, just sit down and try to stop thinking, and pretty quickly you'll realize that you can't. You'll either be thinking about not thinking, or random thoughts will just come into your mind. Because that's the way our mind works, is thoughts just come into our mind. We can't control it. We can't stop it. We can't choose which thoughts show up. They just show up. And even though we don't know where thoughts come from or why we have thoughts or how we have thoughts, what we do know is those thoughts just happen. And they're outside of our control. But what is inside of our control is what we choose to do with those thoughts. Sort of like this analogy of thinking about the waves in the water. Right? The waves come on the water and you can't stop the waves from coming. We know why the waves come, but they're just going to come. We can't push them back. We can't control them, the waves, they just come. But what we can control is what we decide to do with the waves. Because you see, the same waves that excite the surfer terrify the swimmer. Same thing with our thoughts. It's the same thoughts that might scare or stress one person out could either excite another person or could make another person indifferent. So it has nothing to do with how much we think when it comes to overthinking, but rather it comes to what we do with those thoughts when they show up. It's this idea of latching onto our thoughts. It's this idea of giving our energy and focus and attention to those thoughts. And so the secret to not overthinking is not actually thinking less thoughts, but it's thinking less of our thoughts. It's not focusing on all of these ideas and these images and these thoughts that come into our mind. We can't stop the waves from coming, but we can choose which ones we want to surf. Right? If you were to think about this idea that you're a pink elephant, that thought could come in and it would be ridiculous and silly, but it would go as quickly as it showed up because you wouldn't take it seriously. But perhaps there was a thought that came in that you're no good or you're not going to amount to anything. Now, that thought is just as untrue as the thought that you are a pink elephant. And yet, for some reason, it's more tempting to hold on to or latch on to that thought or think that that thought has more meaning or significance. The thing is that a thought is just a thought. And a thought has no meaning until we attach or assign it meaning. But the more we give it meaning, the more we want to hold on to it. And the more we want to hold on to it, the more we immerse in it. And the more we immerse in it, the more we focus on it. And the more we focus on it, the more stuck we feel in it. So overthinking comes not from too much thinking, but it comes from too much latching onto our thoughts. So if you're somebody that overthinks, if you're somebody that wants to overcome this idea of thinking too much or getting caught in your head, the secret or the solution is to separate yourself from the thoughts. Again, it's not about stopping the thoughts. It's not about thinking less. It's about thinking less of the thoughts. If a thought comes in, challenge yourself. Say, is that thought true? How do I know it's true? And even if it is true, is it worth holding on to? Is it worth focusing on? Is it worth putting my energy and attention on? If it's not, then you let it go. Another good method is to practice this idea of indifference. Right? If a thought comes in your mind, you just think, okay, today's going to be an amazing day. Okay. Today's going to be a horrible day. Okay. I look good today. Okay. I look bad today. Okay. And you just practice being indifferent about the thoughts that show up. Because the intense emotion and stress and frustration that comes from the thoughts comes when we attach ourselves to those thoughts. But when we can allow ourselves to remain indifferent, those thoughts don't affect us. in the same way. And then we can choose and we can be in control of the emotions we want to feel and how we want to live our lives and not get trapped by the stress or the thoughts or the overthinking. So the secret to overcoming overthinking, again, has nothing to do with how much you think, but it has to do with how much you focus on what you think. Because your thoughts have no power over you unless you give them power. They have as much or as little control over you as you decide. And as a hypnotist, I often talk about the idea of how, it's our beliefs and our thoughts that hypnotize us to experience life, to experience reality. And when we get stuck in this idea of overthinking, we get caught up in allowing our thoughts to control us. So rather than you letting your thoughts control you, why not be the one to control your thoughts? Not controlling when they show up or how often they show up, because that you can't control, but controlling what you do when they do show up. Because again, your thoughts have as much or as little power over you as you decide. And the secret to not overthinking has nothing to do with thinking less thoughts, but thinking less of your thoughts. So I hope that helped. Leave a comment if it did. This was just kind of me rambling or talking about this idea of overthinking. Am I overthinking the idea of overthinking? See, right now at the end of my video, I'm thinking, what should I say for an outro, this, that? But I'm getting too attached right now to my own thoughts of thinking about what I want to say. But if I separate myself from those thoughts, and I let those thoughts, should my outros do this? Should I say this? And just be indifferent to the thoughts that show up and just be in the moment. Notice how already I'm less in my head than I was even just 30 seconds ago when I was thinking of a way to close this video. Now this video is a little longer than I intended it to be, but that's okay. Because again, it has nothing to do with how much we think, but how much we let what we think affect us. So hope you enjoyed watching that video. We'll see you in the next one. I don't know what this was, but goodbye.